I'm not going to go into detail on our entire portfolios, although I'm going to highlight a few of them as examples of some of the things where we think advanced materials really make a difference later. But our second portfolio is entirely advanced materials and is mostly clean tech and mostly coming out of big research centers. Our first fund started in 2001 is, again, mostly advanced materials and clean tech, although we did 2 early stage IT deals, and again, mostly coming out of the big research centers. So, how do we see advanced materials playing in the clean tech sector? Well, really, we see 5 major silos, and I'm going to give you some more details on these, but within energy, there's really 3 different areas: generation, storage, and efficiency. Environmental being another big group, so air, water, and soil. And then the 5th area, it's kind of a catch-all, but we still think it very important, is sustainable materials and sustainable processes. So and within energy generation, really we're now starting to see some economies of scale come into play in this space, in solar and in other areas. But in order to continue to make progress and in order to really be competitive against incumbent technologies, we need to see continued breakthroughs in the advanced materials. An example of this would be our portfolio company, Cerium, which is out of Canada. So this is a gallium arsenide quantum dot middle layer in a triple junction PV cell. The really relevant, most important things here are that they're the world record holder for efficiency in a PV. Over 40%, and the other really nice thing is that it is fabless. By using conventional semiconductor materials, they can go out to any number of a variety of partners and easily scale this technology. I'm very excited about this company. Within storage, this is a big bottleneck for clean tech, and that should be well known to everybody in the room. The needs in this area are urgent. There's a lot of people throwing a lot of money at this, and we're seeing successful IPOs with A123, etc. Within our space, within our portfolio, example I would pick is BNVia, also producing cathode materials going into the battery market. There's a very low cost bill of materials on this material. And it has a terrific ability to impact the market, especially going into electric vehicles. We've seen some very exciting uptick with this in the vehicular manufacturers recently. Energy efficiency. This is an area that a lot of people have a lot of different opinions. People talk about negawatts and things like this. But we're looking at materials which could be thermoelectrics or could be materials that just have inherently better efficiencies for heat exchange or whatever properties. An example would be out of building materials, Switch Materials, which is a Vancouver-based company making smart glass. So we've all seen photochromic effects, such as my glasses, for example, will turn dark when I go outside in the sunlight. Switch's materials are an organic material that does that, but also has an electrochromic effect, so you could instantly turn it transparent again just with a momentary burst of electricity. This is very interesting for architectural applications where you can save a lot of money in air conditioning costs. Nice thing here is it's organic, which means the raw material is very cheap and abundant. And also, it's a film that can be retrofitted to existing windows, so you're not just limited to the new architectural build. Your addressable market is enormous. The environmental silo that we see as important can be a tricky one from a business point of view, but the potential here to make money is enormous. We are seeing a lot of awareness in this space. And some examples here. Obviously I don't have time to get into every single one of these, but one example I'll pull out of our portfolio is a company called Sempra, which is out of MIT.
Sempra uses peptides which bond to a surface to create not only an antimicrobial property, but also anti-fouling. So this prevents the buildup of biofilms, either living or dead. The cleantech market potential here is enormous, whether you're going into water purification or just water delivery, but also even self-cleaning solar panels that will not allow the buildup of any type of biofilm on their surface. And the last one, which I mentioned, is sustainable materials or sustainable processes. From my background at BASF, this is a very interesting one for me. I see there's terrific potential to improve on incumbent technologies that are out there for manufacturing. New products, new materials coming into these markets are a little trickier. They will be slower to be adopted. But if you can come up with new ways to make products which have significant markets today, they can be adopted rather rapidly. One example that I'll choose, although it could also be considered in the energy generation side, is Real Solar, which is an investment we just made in April. They use the same chemistry that you would find at First Solar, so it's cadmium telluride. But what they have is an electrodeposition process. What First Solar uses right now is a typical CVD deposition process, which requires machinery the size of a house, is extremely expensive, and there's a waste aspect to it too. There has to be recollection of the unused material which did not get deposited onto their film. In the case of Real, all the material would get deposited directly onto the film, and the actual size of the device is about the size of an office cubicle. So a couple of orders of magnitude smaller than what First Solar used today, cheaper, much more energy efficient. And nice thing is very capital efficient again. So that's enough about our strategy. The message I really want to leave with everyone here today is what's going on with nanotechnology. It's something that this province has said is very important to it, and I think there are some real issues that need to be addressed. So let's talk about what's coming up in nanotechnology. There are various projections out there. In this case, Daniel Burns says that we're going to have a $1 trillion market by 2015. Other projections say it's going to be $1 trillion in 2020, but it's coming quickly, whoever's projection you take. Of particular interest to us is the largest segment, materials, $340 billion by 2015. Canada has set up 4 different nano strategies. We don't have a united national nano strategy here. So we've got Nano Quebec, we've got the Nano of Ontario, we've got Nanotech BC, but honestly, and not playing to the room here, the most developed of the 4 is the Alberta Nanotech strategy. They've set some specific goals to be attained here. So, and they're very ambitious. So one is to put Canada among the top 5 nanotech nations in the world, produce 10% of the world's nanotech economic activity, so that'll be $100 billion out of $1 trillion, and Alberta to account for 2% of the worldwide activity, or $20 billion by 2020. $20 billion of economic activity every year in this province, and we're only talking about a decade from now. That's an enormous industry. So how are we doing? What are we going to do to achieve that? Well, we've got several nanotech companies coming out from all over. Not a lot coming from Alberta. In fact, the breakdowns I've seen, I'm sure someone in this room could have provided me with something better, but the breakdowns I've seen actually just sort of group the prairies together. I'll bet you 18% of that 19% that it's almost all Alberta. But most is coming out of Quebec and Ontario. And the segments themselves actually break down pretty similarly to what we see as the market, what we saw as the global market opportunities here. Again, materials being the biggest space. Canada, though, is only investing $220 million a year. That was in 2008 in public funds. And that sounds like a lot to us as Canadians. $220 million, it's a lot of money. But if you take a look at what the other countries are spending, you know, $1.5 billion in the US, Japan, $1 billion, etc. There's enormous amounts of money out there. And as Canadians, we often fall back on the old thing, well, yes, but on a per capita basis, Canada is doing more than its share. But you know, that's not enough. Because if you take a look right now, we're number 13 on Nano Publications. Look at that. That's 6,300. The US is 10 times what we're doing. So again, you might say, oh, on a per capita basis, not too bad. No way. On a per capita basis, we're actually number 14. Way down the end there. We need to pick this up. So how are we going to do it? Well, I propose there needs to be a lot more private investment. We need to be taking great technologies that are being developed in our research centers, and we need to commercialize them, we need to build companies around them, and we need to be taking that market share to achieve the goals that are set out by the Alberta Nanotechnology Strategy. And with that, I think I've taken more than my time, so I'll be happy to answer questions when we get to the panel.